there, and welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash, and it is my privilege to be your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today I would like to talk to you about ways in which you can look taller, because of course I absolutely realise that height can be an issue for many men. And when I say height, I mean a lack of height rather than a surfeit of it. Because height can give your confidence a knock if you feel that you are too short, you are not as tall as your contemporaries. And it can affect your life in many ways. It can affect your confidence in social relationships. Maybe you're single and your lack of height makes you feel as if you can't go out and meet new potential partners. Or even professionally. You know, if you are in a job and you want to put yourself forward to perhaps go up for promotion, or be in a position in which you are facing clients, giving interviews, providing presentations. If you feel your height is holding you back, that can be a confidence issue. Now for me personally, I am 5'9", straight up 5'9". I'm more or less the average height here in the UK. So I've never really thought much about my height. Don't get me wrong, if somebody walked up to me and offered me the ability to be 6 foot tall, I think I'd prefer that, because 6 foot is that sort of classic round number that people often describe, you know, the perfect stature for a man. You know, 6 foot tall and built like an outhouse. But there's not much you can do about your height, I've always thought, because, you know, it's a bit like one of those characteristics that you're born with. It's the hand that you've been dealt. There's not much you can do about it. You know, if you're overweight, you can lose weight. If you're skinny, you can put muscle on. But if you're short, what can you really do? And that's the way that I've always thought of it. But that's not entirely true, is it? There are certain things, of course, that you can do which can give the appearance of being taller. Simple things like wearing clothes which are fitted to your body. Because if you tend to wear baggy clothes, it makes you look somewhat wider in appearance. And wider shortens your height visually as well. It's a trick of the eye. Of course, there are other things you do. You could wear a hat, because that adds automatically 2, 3, 4 inches to your perceived height. Obviously, it's only going to work when you're outdoors, but it is, you know, it elevates your appearance. This is why soldiers wear hats, you know, the Queen's Guard in the royal household. They wear those big tall busbies because it gives that imposing appearance and presence because of that elevation to their height. And there are many other things you can do. If you wear monochromatic clothing, clothing of all one colour, rather than having block colour, you know, like trousers which are a different colour to the upper part of your body, which breaks up your silhouette. If you wear clothes all of one colour, it's got that flowing line to it, which will give the visual appearance of making you look taller and, you know, all one straight flowing line, which again enhances that appearance of your height. Now, other tricks you can do are things like accessorizing the upper half of your body. Wear a flamboyant tie, a pocket square, because it draws the eye to the upper part of the body, and then you don't notice the bottom half. It just makes you look that little taller. And simple physical things like improving your posture. Standing with your back up straight, it'll add height rather than if you tend to slump forward, you know, it takes some height away. But there's one thing that you can do, which I'm really going to talk about today, as you may have guessed, and that is to add elevator footwear into your wardrobe to give you an actual physical boost rather than the perception of height, which are, you know, the outcome of most of the things I've just talked about. Now, the reason I'm talking about elevator footwear today is because probably about 2 months ago, I was approached by an Australian company called JENNEN. Now, JENNEN have been around since 2007, and they are specialist manufacturers of elevator shoes and boots. They claim to have assisted up to 150,000 gentlemen improve their height with the addition of elevator footwear. And those people have included famous celebrities from Hollywood, politicians and other notable people. So, you know, these are a company which know their game when it comes to elevator footwear. They're based in the wonderful Australian city of Melbourne, a city I've visited myself. I had a wonderful time in the Crown Casino there. I have no idea if it's still there, so just one of my memories of Melbourne. Wonderful, wonderful place, but that's where JENNEN are based. Now I have to say, when JENNEN approached me and said, you know, we'd like you to try a pair of our boots or shoes and then do a review on it, and I have to say this is a sample. I have not been paid or endorsed in any way to provide this review. So they've given me a pair of boots to try, that's it. Everything you hear me saying today is utterly independent, unbiased, and my own opinion without any influence from anybody else. So I went on their website to select a pair of boots, and I have to say, what an expansive selection of footwear. There is dozens and dozens of shoes and boots in every style, and it was actually hard to select a pair because there was so much choice. Now it's fair to say, shoes are obviously fashion, style. It's a subjective thing. Some of the boots on there were not to my taste at all, or shoes. Some of them absolutely were. So there is something for everybody. Everything from athletic shoes to boots to the most formal of shoes which you could easily wear on your wedding day even. So lots and lots of choice. Myself, I decided to go for, as you can see, this rather casual looking Chelsea style boot. This is called the Mr. Tognetti. As you can see, it's in a brown colour, and I went for this because I thought, being a sort of casual boot, this is something I would wear every day, something it's easy to throw on when you're going out for a walk or whatever the case may be. So a good all-round general utility boot. So when the boot turned up, I was really interested to see its construction, and I have to say I wasn't too disappointed. It looks, as you can see, like a really good solid utility boot. Now the upper is made of what's described as premium cow leather. Clearly it's not a full grain leather or anything of exceptionally high quality, because the price point is very good, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The sole is again a premium rubberized sole, and it is stitched to the upper and also cemented to the upper. So we know we've got a well-made boot here. It's got a mechanical grip of being stitched to the upper as well as being cemented, so it's not something that we're expecting to fall apart or disappear into pieces anytime soon. Now that rather unusual name, Mr. Tognetti, apparently comes after an Australian violinist called Mr. Tognetti, hence the namesake of these boots. Interesting naming, but yeah, the thing which I was most struck by though was when I looked at these was that they do not look anything out of the ordinary at all, and I think you'll agree. They simply look like a pair of ordinary Chelsea boots. You would never guess by looking at this that that is an elevator boot which claims to add at least 7 centimeters or just short of 3 inches of elevated height to the wearer of these boots, and that is something which is really important, because I think if you're going to wear an elevator boot or shoe, you want to be somewhat stealthy about it. You don't want the world to know that you're seeking to enhance your height. And I think, as you may agree, there's nothing unusual or different about these boots which tells you they're elevator boots in any way. Now I know what you're thinking. How does this boot add nearly 3 inches to the wearer's height without it looking so? Well, basically, inside the boot, that's where the magic takes place. There is an insole within the boot, which means that your foot actually sits at about this point here, a couple of inches higher up than would ordinarily be the case if you were wearing a standard pair of boots. So in effect, you're already elevated 2.5, 3 inches at this point. Now additionally, you can buy insoles from JENNEN of different sizes, 1.2 centimeters or 1.6 centimeters, and these fit inside the boot again, so they just slip in on top of that already elevated footbed, and that adds an extra 1.2 or 1.6 centimeters, giving you that boost to your height. And I have to say, I'm using the 1.2 centimeter insole in this particular pair of boots, so it boosts my height to 6 feet, and I have to say, it's almost unnoticeable when you're wearing them, strange as it may seem. And just to give you a parallel here, I've brought a pair of my normal boots along with me. I'll just pop these next to the JENNENs, and I think you can agree that elevation inside the boot is well hidden, because this is a standard pair of Loke Burfords, all right? Nothing odd about them at all. They look strikingly ordinary compared to the Tognettis. There's nothing there which suggests that this boot is going to be helping you when it comes to that height enhancement. Now, I know what you're thinking. Anything this good, anything this specialist, which has clearly been manufactured for just this purpose, is going to be expensive. Exactly what my thoughts were. Actually, not at all. I selected this pair of boots from the range, and they cost £121, which I thought was entirely reasonable. Then, of course, you have to factor in the shipping. So from Australia, for me, I think the additional shipping was £30. It depends where you live in the world. Depends on entirely that for the shipping cost. So add it all up together, it's around about £160, which for a very specialist pair of boots, which add 3 inches to the wearer's height with no visual appearance to that regard at all, I think seemed fairly reasonable. Up for you to decide, but from my point of view, I thought that was a fairly decent package. So let's talk about the performance of these boots, and there's kind of 2 elements to it, isn't there? There's the looks and there's the comfort. Equally important in many regards when we're talking about a boot which is all about boosting confidence. So from the looks point of view, I guess I've already covered that. These look like ordinary boots. There's nothing special about them at all when it comes to their physical appearance. So they hide that elevation element entirely. So happy with that. Comfort, I would imagine I have put about 15 to 20 miles on these boots because I've been using them every day for the last 3 weeks. And I have to say they've worn rather well. Comfort regard, pretty good. I mean, yes, you can tell you're a little bit standing taller because that insole and the way that the shoe is designed, you kind of stand a little bit on an incline, giving you that elevation. In one regard, that really helps with improving your posture because it's forcing you into a more upright position. And I've noticed that myself walking around. It's benefited me from that regard. Comfort-wise, they are comfortable. I mean, this particular pair of boots, obviously it's a Chelsea-style boot. It's a slip-on boot. They're renowned for being rather comfortable boots, and that's the case with these. Even with that additional 1.2 centimetre insole, utterly comfortable. I've had no problems with breaking in. The leather is, nice and supple and soft, premium cow leather, and yep, no worries, all pretty good. Now, if you ask me, are these boots the equal of footwear from Northamptonshire in England? Things like Cheney, Crockett & Jones, or even Loke? No, they're not, clearly, because they're a fraction of the price. Even those Loke boots you just saw me comparing these with for height, they were more than twice the cost of these. So these are manufactured to the level of their cost, which is much more reasonable. But what you get here is a very specialist boot. It's not something you can pop out to the high street and buy easily. They're stealthy. They add elevation to your height without anybody knowing, at a very reasonable price. So on the price point, I think what they deliver is a fairly good price point for the product that you receive. So what was my overall opinion and observations of these boots in the 3 or so weeks that I've been wearing them? Well, do you know what? I was really surprised. I was quite skeptical. I'd never thought of elevator shoes or boots because I just considered myself to be average height and I was happy with that. So when these turned up and I first put them on, I have to admit, I was striding around the house and you don't really get a perspective, when you're in your normal environment. But when I popped out, I went to, popped in to meet my parents, and I noticed that where I would normally be speaking to my father on eye level, now I was looking down on him, and there was this sense of elevation, of dominance, of grandeur. I felt much different in my my level of confidence. My wife is generally a couple of inches shorter than me. She's about 5'7". So I went from being just a few inches taller than my wife all of a sudden to standing significantly taller than her. You know, much taller, in fact, at 6 feet, which is the height that I would be wearing these boots with the insoles. And it was really quite a wonderful and elevating, excuse the pun, experience. And I tell you what, the strangest thing happened though. I wore them around, you know, striding around the house, went for a walk in the outdoors. When I came home and took them off, it was rather a deflating experience because all of a sudden I felt much shorter again. Hence, I can absolutely testify that wearing these certainly boosts your sense of height and your sense of presence for sure, and definitely, you know, would be a contributory factor to an improvement in your confidence. If your height was an issue which affected your confidence, this would definitely do something for that. So yeah, it's been a really fascinating experience. I do intend to continue wearing them, and I will wear them on occasions when I definitely just want that little boost, you know, and I want to feel that little bit taller. Of course, with perhaps new people I meet, because my old friends would probably wonder why I'm suddenly, you know, they're looking up at me, whereas in the past we used to be speaking on eye level. So from that point of view, my overall opinion here is that JENNEN have produced a very good pair of elevator boots at a very modest price, I think. There are dozens and dozens of pairs to pick from, so there's something for everybody's taste, and yeah, really interesting experience for me. Thank you, JENNEN, for reaching out. I really enjoyed it. I'm happy to endorse this product entirely if you're somebody who's interested in having an elevation to your height. Give it a go. You might find it as interesting as I have. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this video on the benefits of standing taller in elevator shoes, and perhaps the other ways that we've talked about as well. If you have, you would do me an honor if you would give the old thumbs up to us, and don't forget, if you're not a member, click that red subscribe button and come on the journey with us as well. It would be delightful to have you along. So until the next time, take care of yourselves, stand tall, and I will see you again very soon.